There's a content creator who I follow who I reposted her video about how these Scientologists, and I'm not going to say her name because I don't know if this could like get her in trouble or whatever. I'm not trying to like bring any negative attention to her channel because she's doing great work. When it comes to these Scientology people, and she was talking about how it's the people who are in your inner circle, and if you find yourself in a situation where Scientologists are paying attention to you, it's because you have a bloodline and there are people who are in your inner circle that are doing it. And I know that there are people in my family, and I've talked about upstate with the witch and things of that nature, and I know that these people have no idea that I know that I'm onto them, and that I figured out that they're in contact with certain people from my past who I know for a fact are part of this Scientology type organization. And I believe this is why they were so upset when I wasn't like following instructions, because I believed like in my entire life I was kind of like, because I'm a firstborn, I was the first like, not only was I am I like a first child, like the firstborn, but I'm also like the first grandchild, first out of all of like the nieces and nephews, like, you know what I mean? And I know that they pay attention to stuff like that, like that's like significant. I believe like there's also like a lot of jealousy and stuff when it comes to like, I know my younger sister was like jealous of me for like having, because she was a narcissist, and she was like jealous of me for having like this birth order placement. But yeah, there was like a lot of people in my family and like people who I've dealt with who I believe were trying to set me up to be like a sacrifice, and all of that type of stuff, and I believe that, what was going on upstate was there was like a grand plan that they didn't think that I saw, and they thought that I was like, because they didn't, like, they thought I was stupid, they didn't even think that I had like a resume. They thought that I'd never worked a job in my life at my, like, so yeah, like, because I purposely distanced myself from them for a very long time, but, yeah, like, I think, like, they thought I'd be some dummy and I'd be, like, an easy sacrifice. And she was talking about how betrayal is part of, like, how you get initiated into the system. And I was talking about in my previous video about how, they were essentially using honeypots. Like, I caught them trying to set me up with these honeypots. And I know, like, the last guy I was dealing with was definitely a honeypot. And you can spot these honeypots, too, because they don't really have, like, they're very feminine men and they don't really have strong minds of their own. And I was talking about in a recent video how like managers just at like the regular workplace, they prefer to hire people who are like stupid, like, so that they, it keeps them like ahead of everyone. It makes like, and they even do that in the music industry. That's a huge reason why, the music has declined, because of Clive Davis, and he taught Diddy how to like pick artists who weren't very talented so they would rely on them more, and that they would have more control. Artists that, and even when you look at people like Ariana Grande, like, does she look like she has like a backbone and she would like stick up for herself and have an opinion, This is why I don't follow along with like all the home wrecking things and all the things that they say about her, because I know for a fact, and I'll get into another video, like, I know how controlled these people are and how they purposely pick people who they think are going to be like dummies, and that's why none of the artists are talented, and they don't really have, like, they don't want you to be creative and have a creative voice because they want to be able to control you. That's why Ariana Grande is like the only talented artist out there. But anyways, as I was saying, like, I believe they were using me as a sacrifice, and I believe that's part of what was going on when I was upstate. And, I don't have any like ill feeling towards that. I don't really care. I've had my opportunity to work with the Scientologist organization. I remember I had the opportunity to work with a photographer who had done things with the Met Gala, because, as I said, I live near New York City, and I freaked out. Like, I freaked out, and I remember I even had like a hard time sleeping that night. I felt like something was sitting on my chest that night when I kind of like agreed to it, and then I looked at his stuff, and he had like, all the Met Gala stuff. He'd worked with Kimora Lee Simmons, who, anyways, so, and, he had all like the symbolism, and he was wearing like the hat, like, all of like the symbolism was all over his stuff, and I just kind of agreed to it because I didn't really like have a choice about it, I felt like. And I freaked out you know, and that night I had a hard time sleeping. I felt like something was sitting on my chest, and like I couldn't breathe. And I remembered the pressure alleviated. Like, I finally texted the person who set it up and said, like, I can't do this shoot, and the pressure was gone. You know, like, these people, like, every single person that I know, like, certain family members are, like, because you can tell, because number one, they worship money, and number two, they're very status oriented. So, you know, they would be driven to do stuff like this, and they're very, like, competitive, like, with, like, younger family members especially, so they would do anything to, like, get ahead and make sure that no one, like, supersedes them. So I know that they would be, that, you know, these are perfect candidates, and plus it's already in the bloodline, and I've seen symbolism, like, you know, there are pictures at my grandma's house. I've seen symbolism with, like, what they put in, you know, baby pictures of my cousins that my grandma had. So, you know, like, I don't know, but I don't really care that they tried to use me as a sacrifice, or they tried to use me for ritualistic purposes, or that they tried to sabotage me, because, you know, every single person that I've met in this organization, including them, is miserable. You know, like, people, like, every person I've met who is part of this organization is riddled with issues. It doesn't make you happy. You know, I feel like sometimes people are backed into a corner with it, and, like, they feel like they have no choice but to join. But, like, yeah, the people who do it, like, it's like, okay, like, you know, even if you get away with, like, you know, using me to get yourself in, to get an initiation or whatever, it's like, you know, they're not going to be happy. You know, it's not, if anything, it's going to give you more problems, because you're opening portals into your life. And I'm just like, okay, have fun with that, you know. You know, like, it, like if you ever find yourself, like for anyone who ever finds themselves being, like, the victim, or, like, quote, because I don't like to think of myself as a victim of, like, someone trying to, like, use, like, do the whole betrayal thing to get themselves initiated, or try to get you into some program so that they can have power over you, so they could be, like, as part of this organization. You know, people who join this organization, or, like, they're already in it, but they're trying to get to the next level type thing, like, people who are a part of this organization are not happy. They're not happy people. You know, they have lots and lots of issues, loads of issues. And, like, you know, the demonic attaches themselves to them. They're letting those forces in. You know, like, people who join are not happy. Every single person I've met who I know for a fact is a member of this organization is not a happy person, and has tons and tons of issues. It has not made anyone's life better, and I think it needs to collapse. I think that the Scientology organization needs to end. You know, it's morally wrong for them to exist in the first place. And, you know, these people are even what took over the, you know, the British royal family that's sitting in place now, the English, whatever, that's sitting in place now. They're not the real royal family that's meant to be there. It's them. These people have taken over the royal family. These are imposters sitting on that throne. You know? So, yeah. And the King Charles is a huge member. But, like, and they try to make him look stupid, but he's not. Like, you know, he knows, like, they try to make him look stupid. Like, he's, like, kind of, like, you know, old and out of it on purpose, you know? But, yeah, that's what I wanted to say. Like, I was upset because I reposted her video. That was a great video, and she was not saying anything that was harmful to anyone. It's just that they run the show.